collective awareness of impending disasters. You hear a lot of people walking around today saying, something just doesn't feel right. But obviously, we're not at a stage in the development of our species where this phenomenon can be developed into more than rather just sheer intuition, right? Is humanity's collective consciousness even now warning us about a historic event in global history? An event that could reshape, recast, or even eliminate the entire human species? A spiritual event? A scientific event? Or both? Some researchers believe the answer could lie in the planet's hidden heartbeat, what's known as the Schumann Resonance. This subtle pulse vibrates at nearly 8 times per second, coursing invisibly around the world, yet most people have no idea it even exists. Scientists call it the Schumann resonance, and what's truly astonishing is that shifts in this frequency may influence how we think, how we feel, and how we act. Could account for a lot of what we see in the world today. Welcome to the Fringe Files podcast. This is a place where we dive deeply into hidden forces shaping our world, from the economy to the cosmos. This is a podcast that's not going to let the algorithm restrict it, so I need your help. I need you to hit that thumbs up. I need you to share this content. And of course, we want to hear your comments on everything you hear today. Agree or disagree. Alternate theories are welcome. So today we're venturing into a phenomenon few talk about, yet it's happening all around us, all the time. It's called the Schumann Resonance. And here's the mind-bending part. These planetary pulses may not only subtly tune human consciousness, but some theorists suggest the pulses could give humanity a collective sense of impending events. So kind of like a species-wide ESP. So from natural disasters to global upheavals, this resonance could endow humanity with the capability to forecast big events. I mean, things that affect this entire world. And we've actually seen this happen. We'll get into that in a minute. Could this planet's heartbeat be quietly sending us warnings? If only we know how to listen, right? So stay with me, because what you're about to hear may change everything you thought you knew about invisible rhythms shaping our lives. Now, let me just preface all this by saying I don't think the powers that be are comfortable with us exploring topics like this. They'd much rather us just be mindless consumers concerned with which NFL team is going to the playoffs, inane stuff like that. This is the kind of thing that we need to think more about and eschew everything that's been put in front of us to consume. A lot of things have been hidden from us. So let's start with the basics of the Schumann resonance. We'll call it SR for short. It's a set of extremely low frequency electromagnetic waves that exist between the Earth's surface and the Earth's ionosphere. Now, the ionosphere being one of those upper levels, top levels of our atmosphere. Now, the fundamental frequency here is about 7.83 hertz. Higher harmonics include 14.3 hertz, 20.8, 27.3, and 33.8 hertz. Now, this was first predicted in 1952 by Winfried Otto Schumann and confirmed through decades of measurement. The Schumann Resonance, or SR, is a global phenomenon, measurable anywhere on this planet, and it's remarkably stable most of the time. So why does this matter? Because this frequency, the frequencies that we've seen the Schumann resonance manifest itself on, they're closely aligned with human brainwave frequencies. Now, this could hint at a subtle connection between the planet and the human mind. Imagine if we had this type of power and we knew about it. Then it would automatically become obvious why some powers that be don't want us coming anywhere near this conversation. So how does this work? The primary driver of the Schumann resonance is lightning, believe it or not. Every day, tens of thousands of lightning strikes circle the globe, and they produce electromagnetic pulses. These pulses bounce between the Earth and the ionosphere, creating resonant waves, essentially the planet's natural hum. Now, interestingly, the fundamental frequency of the Schumann resonance, 7.83 hertz, is very close to human alpha waves. Now, those alpha waves are linked to relaxation and meditation. And some researchers actually speculate that the Earth may subtly influence our mental states, though this does remain unproven. Just a bit more on alpha waves. Alpha waves range between 8 and 12 hertz. These are brain waves that are linked to a state of relaxed wakefulness and calm alertness. They're most prominent in the posterior areas of the brain, such as the occipital region, and are often seen during meditation. So we can think of this 7.83 hertz, the frequency at which we see the Schumann resonance most often. Think of it as the planet gently nudging the human mind, coinciding with the frequency of the human mind at the alpha wave state. We may not notice this consciously. There needs to be more research to determine whether or not we do have any conscious control, individual, collective, or otherwise, over the phenomenon. But while the Schumann resonance is usually stable, there have been some noteworthy deviations. For example, in 2011, when Japan had that big earthquake, 4 days prior to what was known as the Tohoku M90 earthquake, the Schumann resonance amplitude increased significantly. Now, of course, that's not predictive, but it does demonstrate a connection between geomagnetic disturbances and resonant activity. Then in July of 2025, here recently, we realized or noticed a spike in the Schumann resonance in the theta range, 4 to 8 hertz, with amplitude centered around 7.83 hertz. Some interpret that as the Earth entering a sort of dream state. Now, these anomalies, they fuel speculation about links to human consciousness and global events. Of course, that's a topic that fascinates me and fascinates researchers and enthusiasts alike. When we start to speculate about a link between human consciousness and the Schumann resonance, things can get interesting. Some theorists have actually suggested that the Schumann resonance may influence brain activity because its frequencies overlap with alpha and theta waves in the brain. Could it be the opposite? May be true as well. Could we be influencing the Schumann Resonance. Remember, alpha waves propagate between 8 and 12 hertz and coincide with a calm, relaxed, focused, reflective state. Theta waves between 4 and 8 hertz are much more conducive to deep meditation, intuition, subconscious processing. So alpha between 8 and 12, theta between 4 and 8 hertz. Experiments exposing subjects to extremely low frequency or ELF frequencies around 7 to 8 hertz have shown mild brainwave entertainment, suggesting subtle effects on mood and focus. So the question becomes, could the planet's heartbeat be influencing our minds without us ever realizing it? And I just want to be fair and state that that is possible. Anything's possible, right? Although we don't have scientific proof. We being the general public, it is highly possible that those who wall off whole branches of physics, like the US government, they may have data that substantiates all of this. All right, we have seen anomalies and global events coincide with spikes in the Schumann resonance. Some online communities have actually linked the Schumann resonance spike to specific major events, and one of the most discussed periods is around September 11th of 2001. Mainstream science hasn't concerned any direct connection. Independent monitoring stations and enthusiasts, they have reported some intriguing patterns, however. And I want to add that mainstream science once held fast to the notion of geocentrism. That was, the Earth was the center of the universe. Mainstream scientists and big science at the time would actually persecute you, and they'd maybe even take you out of this world altogether if you disagreed. So I'm very dubious when it comes to the dogma of mainstream science. Some observers noted unusual amplitude spikes in the fundamental 7.83 hertz frequency in the 48 to 72 hours before the 9/11 attacks. Now, this was short-lived, but it was notable and noticeable. These derivations stood out from typical baseline readings. Additionally, temporary shifts were reported in higher harmonics, around 14 to 15 hertz, frequencies that overlap in low beta brain waves associated with alertness and stress. Anecdotal reports also suggest minor simultaneous fluctuations at multiple global stations. Now, this hinted that the planet's electromagnetic tone, if you will, might have reflected or even subtly influenced collective human behavior during periods of extreme societal stress. Now, when we talk about these spikes occurring 48 to 72 hours prior to the attacks, is nature, is God trying to let us know that we can turn away from calamities and disasters if humanity is tuned to this frequency, acknowledges it, and understands how to work within its parameters? I don't know, but I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. July 2025. Now, we briefly discussed this a moment ago. We realized the spike in the theta range between 4 and 8 hertz, centered around the 7.83 hertz fundamental. Some interpreted that as the Earth entering the dream state, potentially affecting human intuition and collective awareness. Collective awareness of impending disasters. You hear a lot of people walking around today saying, something just doesn't feel right. But obviously, we're not at a stage in the development of our species where this phenomenon can be developed into more than rather just sheer intuition, right? Now, these anomalies fuel speculation about links between the Schumann resonance activity and human consciousness. Human consciousness, which we don't fully understand and really have a tough time defining, can't rule out consciousness in other species or even what we term as inanimate objects. The idea that the planet's heartbeat could act as a collective consciousness indicator, signaling when humanity is on edge or approaching a major event. Think of the Schumann resonance like a planetary pulse, stable most of the time, but capable of subtle surges during periods of energy influx or global stress. While this remains, of course, highly speculative, it's a fascinating lens through which to consider the unseen forces that quietly shape our world. Why does this even matter? Even if it doesn't directly impact our consciousness, the Schumann resonance is a phenomenon that illustrates the interconnectedness of the planet, lightning, the ionosphere, and our brains may all operate on similar frequencies and thereby endow us with certain capabilities. So, some questions are natural at this point. Are these natural rhythms of the earth subtly influencing human behavior? Or is human behavior somehow influencing the natural rhythms of the earth? Are we linked in that way? Could we monitor Schumann resonance spikes to predict geomagnetic or societal stress? Could we use this phenomenon to avoid certain disasters, even? Sure, all of this is speculative. We get into the intersection of physics, neuroscience, and philosophy, challenging us to consider our relationship with the earth in a whole new way. I say these are topics that we need to talk much more about. We don't need to shy away from it and be uh, dissuaded by mainstream science, calling it hogwash. Mainstream science once called the notion that man would one day be able to fly. That was once hogwash. So, what can we take away from this? The Schumann resonance is real, it's measurable, and it's global. Isn't that what science always seeks to, mainstream science? They always want to know that something is measurable, duplicatable, and we see that in the Schumann resonance. The fundamental frequencies of the resonance align closely with human brain waves and the frequencies that they operate on. Documented anomalies do exist, and some may subtly tune human consciousness. Listen, if you found this introductory episode of the Fringe Files fascinating, go ahead and subscribe. We're going to be doing a lot more of this, diving into hidden forces shaping our world, not just from an economic standpoint, but from a paranormal and scientific standpoint as well. Again, I urge you to hit that thumbs up because, again, the algorithm is just not going to reward. It's not going to reward a channel that is willing to explore things about our reality from multiple vantage points. That's why I need your help. I need you to like, share, and comment. And I need you to subscribe. So until next time, stay curious, stay aware, listen closely to all of the rhythms of the world around you.